Hey, what's up? I'm Corey Congilio, filming right here in my studio in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm excited to be a part of the TrueFire and PRS road trip. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about PRS guitars, talk about gear, play over some songs, answer questions, all that kind of stuff. So let's just jump right in and talk about this first PRS. Now this is an SE Hollow Body 2 piezo, and I'm not really using the piezo pickup in this tune that I'm going to play over, just the magnetics. But this is a really great guitar with a lot of options, and PRS loaned this guitar to me to check out for a while when they first launched it, and it's been a lot of fun to play because I can play some of my jazzier stuff on it, blues stuff. If I needed to go to a quick acoustic pickup sound, I could on a gig. It sounds really, really great, and it's definitely got a lot under the hood for sure. The first tune I'm going to play over is a shuffle, and all of these songs are actually going to come from my TrueFire course, my In the Jam course. In the Jams are really cool because you can play with me and you can kind of mix the audio yourself. So you need the keyboards louder, take them out, do whatever you want. You want to take my lead out, play along, you can do that too. So this first shuffle, it's called He Never Gets Mentioned. I wrote it as kind of a tribute to John Scofield and maybe other jazz blues players that don't get mentioned all the time as being tremendous blues players because maybe they're thought of as being blues or fusion or jazz or rock. John's one of my early guitar heroes, and it just reminded me of something that he would do. And then I kind of play more of my bluesy approach over top of it. So this one's called He Never Gets Mentioned. Fun shuffle using this PRS through a variety of stuff. Actually, no pedals on this one. This is just going to my 2-rock through a UA, Universal Audio aux box for my cabinet simulation, and just it, guitar and amp. That's it. We can talk about pedals later maybe, but not using any for this song. All right, this is a fun tune. Let's check it out. So the best advice I was ever given by an older musician, really, I mean, there's a lot of great advice I've gotten, but the one that always sticks with me, because it's probably the hardest to sort of align yourself with, or always sort of keep your eye on, is to really work on being yourself as a player as much as possible. It's really hard because as guitar players, maybe we want to get hired or get the gig, so we try to be like who we think we should to get the gig, or we see somebody we're enamored with. Maybe we love John Mayer and we go after him with our sound and our instrument, or Eric Clapton or Stevie Ray Vaughan, or maybe it's Joe Satriani or Steve Vai. It's so hard. You can pull from all those resources and influences, but the end game is to try to sound like yourself. That takes a long, long time. I'm still working at it, but that's the best advice an older musician gave me, for sure. All right, so the next song I'm going to play is one I call CC Strut, and really it's a play on Sissy Strut. I wanted something with kind of a meters feel, a fun instrumental tune that would just be, interesting to play over, and not just one chord. Actually have a handful of chord changes in there that you have to navigate to really sound like you know what you're doing, and hopefully I do on this one. But I did it on this guitar. This is the PRS Silver Sky. We know this as the sort of John Mayer signature guitar, right? This is a maple neck version, midnight rose color, stock. I did float the tremolo a little bit, because if it's got a trem on it, I want to use it, right? And this has really been a great studio guitar because it has that old, well, I can't tread too deep into the waters of what this guitar resembles, but it's got that sound of a 3 pickup traditional instrument like this that you might come to know after 60 some odd years, right? Anyway, it's a lot of fun to play this guitar. It's got some great tones in it, and I think you're going to dig the little funky jam called CC Strut. Again, that tune is in the jam course at TrueFire.com, and it's a lot of fun. All right, let's jump in and check it out. So what was one of my most memorable gigs? Well, off the top of my head, I'd really have to say when I had the opportunity to play at Red Rocks in Colorado a few times. Those stand out because that place is just magical, and it's not like you can just play there whenever you want. I was playing with a great artist named Lucy Silvas. We were on tour with Chris Stapleton and Brothers Osborne, two of my favorite bands and artists, and they're just amazing people. And we got to play there 2 nights in a row. So literally, we slept on the bus at Red Rocks. It was awesome. And one of the nights, I remember Peyton Manning was there. And, you know, the Brothers Osborne's guys, they're like well over 6 feet, wearing cowboy boots, big guys, right? And then Peyton Manning is standing next to them, and you could tell how big of a dude he was. I was like, holy crap. You know, Peyton was just huge. And then Stapleton brings him on, and he sings Tennessee Whiskey with him. And what's funny is there's an interview where Chris Stapleton is saying that only like 2 people at that point had ever got up on stage with him, and one was Peyton Manning. And I was like, I was there. I was standing on the side of the stage. It was really cool. Red Rocks was probably one of my top 5 places I've ever played. But I've had the chance to play in some really cool arenas and with some really, really great artists. And hopefully that continues to happen. So that's one for sure. There's many more we could go into. So would I rather play live or in the studio, and which one is more creative for me? Well, that is an absolute loaded question, complete 50-50 toss-up. But let me tell you why both are important to me. For live, if I'm playing in an improvised situation, there is absolutely nothing better than that when the synergy happens with all the other players and you create something in that moment that has never maybe happened before. That's the beautiful thing about music, is it can be completely spontaneous. I think that's why the Grateful Dead and jam bands like that really have an appeal to people, because it's a different show every night. So also I've had some great gigs that were live, that were really structured, where you knew what you were going to play, and those were also really fun too. So I'm going to be completely a politician here and say, well, I also like playing in the studio. The studio is another place where that magic can happen, and then you can document it, and you can build off of that, and you can usually, or hopefully, do it with some other great players as well. Create something that's timeless, that you're going to be able to revisit over and over again. I've done that with bands where when you hear it, the recording, it actually kind of transports you back to that time, and it's a beautiful feeling. It's tough to say. I went for a year without playing a live gig, and I didn't miss it as much as I would have missed the studio. That being said, you can kind of perform live in a camera and live stream now, so you can get a little bit of that, but the interaction still has to be there. Terrible answer, but that's pretty much how I can tell. I get different things from both. Don't want either to go away, but there you have it. Take from that what you will. All right, so this final tune I'm going to play over is called Everything Old Is New. Again, it comes from my In the Jam course at TrueFire.com. And the idea was like, everything that has been played or done comes back around. You take somebody like Gary Clark Jr. or Joe Bonamassa or John Mayer, like they're pulling from stuff that we've already heard but making it their own, and I think that's really fantastic. So this is kind of an up-tempo funky track in E, and I'm going to use this PRS 594 single cut, and I absolutely love this guitar. I watched Tim Pierce demo this guitar or a guitar like this, against a real 59 Gibson, and I was like, wow, this really stands up. And I called PRS, and I was like, you got any of those around? They said, well, when we do, we'll let you know. And they sent me this tobacco burst version, and this has been by far my most favorite PRS. The neck pickup sounds really clear and clean, and doesn't have too much low-end woof or growl. And the coil taps on the guitar sound really great too. I may even use those in the tune. We'll see. But it's a great neck. I love a chunky, late 50s type neck. And that's it. I just kind of keep tweaking it. I put different strings on it and set it up. It's really easy to set up for me. So this has been a really great guitar, and by far my favorite PRS as of late. So that's what you're going to hear over that tune. And we'll have some fun. I'll maybe use some more pedals. I think I'll put a little bit of fuzz on this one too. We'll go a little outside here. The other ones, I didn't do too much. Yeah. So in any case, PRS 594 single cut. Do your homework and find out why these are so special. And we'll play this next tune. Little fuzz, little 2-rock. Not much has changed. All right, I'll see you in there. All right, so what would I tell an intermediate player to make sure they don't skip over when they're learning? And first of all, I should say that the intermediate sort of category of player is wide. It's kind of murky. You could be an early intermediate, a late intermediate. Sometimes I feel like a late intermediate player. But in any case, you can never be too far away from having good time. Good time, good rhythm, not rhythm just how many chords you know, but being relaxed, having a strong rhythmic feel is really important. Playing by yourself, playing with a metronome, making sure it feels like a song when you're playing by yourself. I strive for that, and I think that's also really, really important. Again, and never stop learning. Just keep pushing yourself, whether it be in that area or in anything else. I mean, I'll never master this instrument, and I don't think anybody else will, but we can keep working on it and keep trying to make our guitar playing like a bank account. Let's just keep making deposits, because we're going to take something great out of it someday. Okay? So, hopefully that helps all of you intermediates out there. Stay the course, literally, physically, all that stuff. So what is my best tip on getting tone? Great question. I'm so glad that I can address this one here, because what you want to do, start with your guitar, start with your amp. If you're using a tube amp, set all your EQ knobs at 5, right? Start from there. Really hear the characteristic of the guitar and the amp and how they're working together. This is before you've added any pedals or anything like that. And I'm pro pedal, as you can see, there's a bunch behind me. So from that point, dial through your pickups, play with your volume knob, play with your tone knob, get an intimate relationship with what the guitar does, whether it be a guitar like this, one with more of a traditional, single coil layout, whatever. Learn the instrument, okay? Then start to tweak with the knobs. Don't be afraid to turn them. If you get a little too spiky highs, turn the treble down. Sometimes there's too much low end in an amplifier because of the speaker. Turn the bass knob down. But start with them all at 5, and that's going to give you a good representation of the guitar and the amp for sure. Also, master volume amps that have a master and a gain knob, turn the master all the way up, then use that gain knob as the volume. Then bring them together. See what kind of tones you can create that way. There's a lot of flexibility in amplifiers for sure, particularly of the tube variety. And if you're using a modeling type amplifier, do the same thing, but on a particular amp model. You'll dial up maybe a sound in a Pod or a Helix or a Kemper or a Fender Mustang, one of those digital amps. Find a basic amp setting, try it clean, then start to turn knobs and see what you can get out of each particular amp model. A Fender type sound will sound one way, a PRS amp will sound another way, a Vox style amp will sound another way. You'll start to get familiar with the characteristics of these particular amps and then figure out which one works for you. So that's the first place to start. From there, the list is long and there's probably not enough time to talk about it here. But with gear, make sure really make sure your guitar's set up to be comfortable for you. Make sure that it plays in tune all over the place. Start with a clean sound. Get to know all the settings on the guitar, setting on the amp. If you're using amp modelers, dial it way back. Start with a single preset with just an amp. Hear how that all sounds, because the tone is going to come from your hands. That's what they always say. So that's another area that we can get into. But you want to start basic first so you know what you're getting and hearing as it's coming back to you. Now, with regard to your hands, okay, I went there. I might as well keep going there. I tell people all the time that you want to make sure that you're getting a good tone acoustically out of your guitar. If you're hearing this, that's not a nice, rich, sustaining tone. Make sure your vibrato is up to snuff. Get those fingers behind those strings to make sure the notes ring out. Do you ever see a violinist? They have all their fingers on the strings. When they play a note with the third finger, they're stacking other ones behind it. More mass equals more tone. I mean, I could put this guitar headstock on the table and it would ring even louder because there's more mass, okay? So think about that too. The tone comes from your hands as well as the gear. But that's a great place to start. All right. Gosh, I hope that makes sense. This has been a lot of fun, for sure. Hey, well, thanks so much for hanging out. I'm Corey Congilio right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Thanks to TrueFire and PRS for having me on their road trip. It's been a blast playing these guitars, and it's been great to have such a wonderful relationship with amazing companies like TrueFire and PRS, and I hope that lasts for a long, long time. All right, hope you enjoyed. I'm Corey Congilio. I'll see you out there.